Psalm 128. So I've been asked to talk about this psalm, this song, this singing of praise, and it's kind of been clear that the main running theme is that it's a psalm of family and home. It sings about how blessed are the ones who fear the Lord and walk in obedience of His ways. And it describes how there's an impact on your life of living in awe and worship of God, and living in obedience to Him. So let's jump right in. So in verse 1, it says about how blessed is the one who fears the Lord and walks in His ways. So what does that look like? A lot of the time, the fear of the Lord for me is in my head, and it takes a while to get down into my heart for me to really understand it and live it out. And in verse 4 as well, it says, "Behold, for thus shall the man be blessed who fears the Lord." You know, normally in the Bible, when it says something twice, it means, okay, pay attention. This really is important. Listen up. So this verse is really trying to make the main emphasis of, like, before any of this blessing comes along, let's focus on why. It's the fear of the Lord and obedience to Him, which is why all of it comes about. So for Jews at the time, that would have been following the law, being obedient to that. But for us, we've got a bit of a different context. So this is all in the context of Jesus. We're still bound by the law, but we're also, freed by the love of Jesus, and He's fulfilled the law. So this is kind of an emphasis of being in relationship with God, and walking with Him. Proverbs says that the fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom, and I really, really like that. My thoughts are that, thinking about it and praying about it, I was like, what is the fear of the Lord? It seems a bit confusing. But for me, it's about being in relationship with God. That's where it starts, and that's where it comes from. It can't be forced. And if it's out of being scared and fear and anxiety of punishment and eternal damnation, yes, it's not going to work out great. It's the wrong motivation. The Bible describes kind of awe and wonderment of God. I don't know about the weather today. It's a bit nutty, but if you take a look outside and a starry night, this is one of my favorite things to do, and the night is clear, you see like infinite constellations. It's absolutely beautiful, and it takes my breath away. And that instantly just connects me with God and just says, wow, you created all of this. That's beautiful. That's why I like going out to the Peak District and biking. I just get to experience God's creation, and that's kind of the start of falling in love with Him for me, and the start of that relationship with God. So it makes me move on to thinking, what's a good sign that you have the fear of the Lord in your life? And the biggest thing is really your obedience to God. That's keeping His commands, like loving the Lord your God with all of your heart, all of your soul, all of your mind, and all of your strength, and loving your neighbor as yourself. It's not holding back, and it's just being, head over heels in love with God. And the fear of the Lord is also a gift of the Spirit, and we get the Spirit through relationship with God as well. If that doesn't really make sense, I guess another way that I thought about looking at it is that kind of the fear of the Lord really means trusting in God's way more than my own. And, praying and asking God why that came into mind, and what's the main thing that stops me doing that, is pride and thinking, my way is better. I trust my plan more than God's. And that, really puts a wall between God's blessing that He wants to pour out on us. It's a real challenge to say, okay, even though it doesn't make sense, even though it might be super scary, I choose to sacrifice my plans, and pick up yours, God's, and choose the plan that you have for my life. It's going to be way better and so much worth it. So pray and ask God to show you the next steps to take, where you can trust in Him, where you can be obedient to Him, and how you can start to be in awe and wonderment of Him even more. So after this, it talks about the types of blessings that you get. So just quickly, there's 4 main blessings in this psalm that it talks about. So the blessing of being prosperous and successful in your business and work, being blessed in your relationships, that they'll be great, being able to see your family brought up, so seeing generation after generation, so seeing your grandchildren, and that you'll see the church being prosperous and the church flourishing. Those are the four main promises that come in through this psalm. Something that God really spoke to me about as I was reading this, and I'll read the verse right now, but it says, verse 5, Psalm 128, "The Lord bless you from Zion, and may you see the prosperity of Jerusalem all the days of your life." Now, we've been invited into the church through Jesus and into the promises to all the Jews. And the Lord blesses us from Zion, Zion being the church. And that's such an amazing promise. God's given us a promise of community, and that's what we are. So tasks that are usually tiresome and take a lot of effort, so having a family, raising and teaching your kids, God promises us in obedience to Him the sharing of that burden, the sharing of that load, and the lightening of it. Having that community of unconditional love and reflection of God's love to each other, where we can lighten that burden for each other and make it so that it's easily carried in the community. That's God's promise, and that's God's desire for the church, to reflect His love.